Prairie Yard and Garden is a production of the University of Minnesota Morris in cooperation with Pioneer Public Television. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yekel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org.
Owning a home for over 30 years gives you the opportunity to develop the landscape around your own personality. Each of us has that special corner where we like to retreat after a hectic day. If you are lucky, the birds, bees, and butterflies also find it to be a special place. Join me on Prairie Yard and Garden as we look for that special retreat in a backyard. Some homeowners enjoy mowing grass every week, while others enjoy weeding a special garden. Eliminating grass and creating flower beds to create a backyard retreat has been the goal of my guest today. Joining me on Prairie Yard and Garden is Bonnie Buddy, who has spent many years developing her retreat. Bonnie, welcome to Prairie Yard and Garden.
Thank you. I'm glad you could be here today.
Tell me, when did this all begin?
25 years ago.
25.
25. Started with a small 8x12 bed, and it is what you see today.
And what did that bed consist of?
It was a shrub rose. It started out with a shrub rose and some annuals, and then it morphed into a pond with a fountain, and then the shrub rose died. Then I had to put in some other annuals and some other plants. That's what started it all.
So what took its place?
Daylilies took its place, and daylilies and annuals took the place of that. And then every year I added more annuals and more perennials.
How many beds have you created over this 25 years?
Wow, probably 10, at least 10. I have a huge hosta bed that's one of my favorite places to be because I enjoy hostas a lot. But I enjoy all of my gardens because I like the smells and the colors and just being outdoors.
And how do you go about designing a bed? I mean, for some people it's very methodical, others just take a hose and...
I kind of wanted a lawnmower to be able to fit in between the paths, and I lay out a rope or a hose, and where it lays is where I cut. And then I edge them all in rocks just because it's inexpensive edging.
And I noticed the beds are all edged. The grass is cut
Yes,
back a good
yes.
4 or 6 inches?
Yes, that's so the lawnmower wheel can fit in there nicely and I don't have to do any other trimming. It is very tedious. It takes me hours to do that. I have to recut every year because the grass starts to grow back. I haven't found anything that works well to get rid of that. So it is a very long process, but I don't mind.
You never thought of edging as another alternative?
I have, but I've had trouble finding edging that's easy for me to get put in the ground. So I keep looking for different ways to do it, but I haven't come up with the right solution yet.
So you use just a little square shovel and take a scoop at a time?
Yep.
There's a lot of feet here to cover.
There is.
How long does that take you?
Hours. I work in my garden every evening and on weekends. So that's what I do to relax.
Well, one of the other things that you talked about makes this yard unique is you've got some things from your dad. Tell me about that.
And I also got, my dad didn't provide a lot of things. It was his dad, my grandfather, that made a lot of stone structures. And many of the pieces that I have are 50, 60, 70 years old. I remember going over to his house as a young child, climbing on these pieces, and I was able to get some after he passed away, and they're very special to me. I enjoy having them in my garden. I think it makes my garden very unique.
And do you design the bed around that piece and then the
Not
flowers?
necessarily, because most of the beds were already in place before I got the pieces.
Okay.
In some of them I did move into a new bed and go around that. But most of them, the beds were already made, and then I just plopped it in where I thought it would work, or where, as far as we could move them, because they're very heavy pieces.
Well, that's very interesting that you've been able to preserve those.
Yes, it's very special. We have a lot of iron here, so some of them are getting rusty from the water, and I try to clean them, but I don't want to damage the pieces, so I have to be very careful not to wreck them.
Do you find that they're cracking over time?
Some of them have, and some of them have lost some of the tiles or the rocks and stones that are in them. But usually I can hide that with the plant.
Bonnie, can we go take a look at a couple of these beds?
We sure can. I'd love that. Larry, I'd like to tell you a little bit about this bed. This bed I made after my uncle passed away. Some of the plants that are in here I've got from my uncle. And then some of the other items kind of show my personality with doing daycare. I have a tricycle and an old, really rusty car that I got from one of my past daycare parents. And I have a wagon over there. And it's, the corner piece is a piece that I got from my grandfather's yard. So this whole bed is very special to me.
And it's a unique shape? Anything special about it?
No, I just wanted to edge the driveway, so I didn't have too much, I wanted it big so I could have big plants in it, and I just wanted to take up a large amount of space.
Well, Bonnie, I see a couple of Gaillardia here. Tell me a little bit about this particular one.
Well, this yellow and orange, bright reddish orange one I got from my uncle's garden. This year it's not doing as well as I was hoping for. Last year it was huge. I had to put a cone around it just to keep it standing up. But this year it's not doing as well. But I hope I can keep it growing and maybe, it'll spread a little bit.
It looks like it's got a little powdery mildew.
Yeah,
huh?
a little bit. That's probably because I have so many big plants around it. It's not getting enough air movement.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one behind you there, that reddish color.
Yes,
that must be relatively new.
That is relatively, I think I bought that last year, and it's spread already. Gaillardia, for me, spread very quickly.
What other unique plants do you have here?
I have some cushion spurge that I really am attracted to because of the pinkish hue that is in the plant. And they make a nice mound.
How tall does that tend to get?
It is about as high as it's going to get, and it's starting to split in the middle because it's gotten so big. I never had that trouble before.
Well, and I see you have a few marigolds in the wagon. Does that take special care?
Yes, it does. I need to water that more frequently. We water every day with an underground sprinkler system, and if it's intensely hot, I need to water with a watering can in that bed.
What about fertilization? Are you an avid fertilizer?
I fertilize only a couple times a year with Miracle-Gro. I do it right away in spring, and then maybe midsummer I fertilize again.
Well, it obviously is doing the job. The flowers are looking very beautiful.
I think so. I'm very pleased with this bed.
And it looks like Autumn Joy is getting ready to bloom.
Yes, that'll be very soon, and once it does bloom, they're covered with honeybees, and we can hear the buzz when we come out the door. There's so many honeybees on them.
Well, what about this bed right here?
This heart-shaped bed I made thinking about my grandfather. He was into flowers along with the rock sculptures that he made, and he had a bed like this when I was growing up. The alyssum is doing fabulous this year. I've never had such good luck for many years on these.
And what do you attribute that to?
Maybe the right weather conditions. I believe alyssum likes it hot, and we had a nice spell of hot weather. They seem to do better after that.
Mm-hmm. And why did you put in a few pinks?
Well, I started out, the whole center was pink vinca, and they were dying out. So I couldn't find any more pink ones after that, so I had to come up with something else. And I thought, well, yellow looks good with pink, so I'll throw them in there.
You think it got too wet?
Could be, yeah.
Cool and wet or something?
Probably, because we had a lot of rain after I planted them.
Well, some years diseases just take a lot of plants.
They sure do. I think I've had more trouble this year than other years
Uh-huh.
with disease.
Tell me the story behind this little bed here.
My daughter picked it up at a garage sale for me. I always wanted one, never went and bought myself one. She bought it for me, so I tried to make it look like a pillow with the alyssum, and then I usually try to make it look like a quilt covering. This year, the flowers that I bought were marked wrong. So I got all yellows except that little one with the orange in it.
Well, you can figure that's their toes sticking out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's always a frustration. You get home
yes.
and a month later when they bloom,
Find out the colors aren't what you thought they were.
Exactly.
I don't grow my own because I don't have the space to do that.
Yep. That's a whole nother business.
Yes, it is.
Well, we got to keep the nurseries in business.
You're right, and I do that very well.
And how about this little bed here on the side? What's unique here?
My favorite flower in this bed is the lily. My husband bought it for me last year, and so I was extremely pleased to see it bloom so beautifully this year. I was a little worried early in the year. It looked very scrawny, but it turned out beautiful.
Looks like a daylily behind it.
A daylily, orange daylily. I got that as a gift also.
Do you deadhead them every day?
I do. I deadhead every day.
Really?
I deadhead every day.
Well, then you don't get to bed too early.
No, I don't. And sometimes I am even out here early in the morning deadheading and weeding before my daycare children get here.
Beautiful purple phlox?
Yes. Phlox is one of my favorites for the smell and the color.
So do you do a lot of cut flowers with
No, I don't.
Really?
I don't, because I'm not in the house very much to enjoy the smell of them and the beauty of them. I'm outside very much of my day. Larry, why don't you follow me over to this bed here? I want to show you a plant that I found just this year. It's a echinacea. It's called Cheyenne Spirit. What attracted me was the multicolor flowers. I hadn't seen that before. I'm not sure how new it's been or how long it's been out.
But the yellow is part of the original plant?
Yes, it is.
Wow. I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it any other place this year either.
And you just planted it this year?
Yes,
so
I did.
It's doing exceptionally
well. It's doing very well. It's doing very well. I've had good luck with coneflowers, except I did have a problem with the disease last year. I had to get rid of a couple of plants.
I think everybody in the state that had coneflowers fought that problem, and
yeah.
You know, unfortunately it's a virus, and you got to just
you got to destroy the plant. Yep.
Yep. Start over. Well, what else? What's this little guy?
Those
down
are
here?
called gazanias. I had never seen them before. I needed some filler, and I went to local Mills Fleet and found that plant. I wasn't sure what it would do for me, but it's a beautiful little flower. They close up at night and open again in the morning.
Well, Bonnie, tell me about this little structure over here. That's kind of unique.
That is a piece that I got from my grandfather's yard. I love the mosaic look to the two sides, and then I was really intrigued about the circles that he put in the back side, what I call the back side. I had a hard time deciding which direction to put the planter, and it's something that I could switch around if I chose to, but I enjoy the view when I'm working in this garden. I get to see the circles and wonder how he did it. I wasn't privy to a lot of the ways that he did his things, but he was very creative.
Yeah, having the triangle structure would be a little bit of carpentry involved
right.
there, I
suspect.
suspect.
Yes. Yeah, he did some carpentry work. So yeah, he really used a lot of talent in building the structures he's made.
And tell me about the sweet potatoes.
Well, I love sweet potato vines. They just kind of went wild. I had a geranium in the bed. Well, that got covered up by the sweet potato vines. They must also like the hot weather.
I would suspect so.
Yeah, they're growing very well for me.
Well, over here on the other side, I see a border, and give me a little of the history of this.
Well, this bed is only 3 to 4 years old. I just decided I wanted a dividing line between the neighbor's property and mine, and went and got some shrubs, and my grandkids helped me plant it. We did it all in one day, and they had a lot of fun helping Nana.
And what are the shrubs that you put
I
in
have
here?
spireas and barberry and weigela.
Okay. And tell me, what's that process of creating these wonderful, smooth, flowing lines in your garden?
Well, I just wanted it nice and easy, a nice flow to it, and I love having the green grass in between because I like the contrast between the flowers and the green grass, and I wanted it just to be something easy. I'm not a symmetrical person. I just kind of go with the flow.
Well, it does feel restful as you see the curving
Gentle
lines.
curves. I like curves. I don't like straight lines.
Well, Bonnie, this looks like a kidney shaped. Is there something unique about this?
This is the bed that started it all. This is the bed that I had the pond in. Obviously, I increased the size somewhat since I had the pond, but this is the bed that started it all. From the pond, I went to Heliopsis and black-eyed Susans. I got some Penstemons in there and some Stella de Oros that were full of blossoms this year. I wish they were still blooming today.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're kind of
They're
short.
done. Their time is done.
Nice little green chair there.
That's-
What's unique about that?
It's a very comfortable old chair, and they're coming back in style. I do enjoy sitting out here some evenings just to smell the flowers and be surrounded by the beauty.
What kind of a bush is that
That
behind
is
it?
a viburnum that had beautiful blossoms on it earlier this year, but that's also done.
It didn't set any fruit.
No,
Sometimes they set a red berry that
really.
robins
No,
love.
I've never seen that on mine. Haven't been lucky enough to see that.
What about the story behind that sand cherry?
That was a tree that we got after my husband's father passed away, and I put it there because I wanted to be able to see it very often throughout the day. And as I told you before, I'm outside a lot, so this is a great spot for it because I get to see it all the time.
And with you sit out here in the evening, I suspect.
Yes,
The only
yes.
time you got.
Right in the evening
Yep.
when I'm not weeding.
This other bed, is there anything unique in there?
That one I made in honor of my mom. She just liked lots of different colors.
Do you have any beds that are just theme colored with
No.
just one color?
Nope.
No, you
Nope.
mix
I
colors?
like lots of color and mixed colors. I don't care if some people would consider them to clash. I don't care. I just like lots of color.
What flower do you think smells the best?
Alyssum and phlox are my favorites.
Uh-huh.
I love petunias, but they require a lot of work, so I'm getting more and more away from petunias because they're a lot of work.
Well, but they got some beautiful ones.
They do have some beautiful ones, but I have to deadhead them very often throughout the day even.
Unique colored phlox, I think. Kind of
Yes, and I don't remember the name of that one.
well, you got a little butterfly figure
Yep,
in there.
dragonfly over there, and I've got
dragonfly.
some hummingbird little stakes in there and other butterfly. I like lots of little things to add interest to my gardens.
And what's unique about this one over here?
That
This
was
round
that
one.
was also from my grandfather. I used to have a flag in there, but that got run over. So this year I just decided to put some brightly colored cosmos in there along with the alyssum, which some of it's getting hidden by the cosmos now. Every year I do a little bit different flower in there.
Okay. Is that kind of a wishing well concept, you think? Is
You
that what he
know,
had in
no,
mind?
he just had regular old flowers in there. He did have some wishing wells on his property, but one of the other grandchildren got that. Larry, one of the things I'm really proud about on this bed is the hydrangea. It's growing really, really well. It's only about 3 years old. It's huge this year. It looks like I'm going to have to get in there and do some trimming, but I hesitate to do that because I like the large size things.
And it looks like it's going to have large flower heads,
Yes,
huh?
yes, it does get huge blossoms on it. I spend a lot of time deadheading when it comes time to deadhead. That takes me a long time to do that. Okay, Larry, another thing I wanted to point out to you in this bed is the elaeatres. They're looking the best that they ever have since I've planted them. I'm really pleased with that.
You know, with the kind of spring we had that was so cool and cloudy, I was questioning if we were going to have any decent flowers.
I was too. I was very afraid for all of my flowers, but they're looking great this year. Another plant I have here is a elodie lily. I was very disappointed one morning to come find out that all of my plants had been eaten. They were about 4 feet tall, had beautiful blossoms on it. When I came out the next morning, all the blossoms were gone. So I'm suspecting it was a deer.
Do you have many deer problems?
Never had any other deer problems at all.
Well, what about that little chair over there? What's unique about that?
My sister made that chair for me. She loves to do that kind of thing, and she made that chair for me. I usually have flowers in the watering can, but it's hard to get the water to them this year for some reason.
Do you ever get a wren in that nest?
No, no birds tried that.
Huh. Well, that's too bad. Looks like a nice little birdhouse.
I would enjoy seeing birds there.
Yep, yep. And I see in the background we got, was that a little gate and a fireplace?
A fence that my grandfather made and a fireplace that could actually be used. The little front part slides out. We've never used it that way. That was a very difficult one to move in position because it's so heavy.
I can imagine.
Took us a lot of work to get that one in place.
I have a question. What would you recommend for a crabapple tree that looks good all summer?
You know, that's a great question because everybody thinks of the flowering crab apples for the beautiful flowers in the spring, but they can last maybe a week or 10 days maximum, but the plants in your yard year-round. So I'm standing next to a Donald Wyman crab, a flowering crab, has these beautiful cherry red fruits that'll hang on all winter. This is both a really beautiful winter landscape feature, especially when a little snow is on the trees, adds color to the landscape, but they provide food for migrating flocks of cedar waxwings and pine grosbeaks during the winter time, and then when the robins come back in the spring, they'll usually clean up the rest of the fruit. This tree is also disease resistant. It gets a little bit of apple scab, but not nearly like some of the cultivars that lose all their leaves in midsummer. And so it creates both the beautiful flowers, attractive foliage all summer, and then that beautiful fruit during the winter and early spring. Some other varieties that have similar features are Professor Sprenger, which has orange fruit, Golden Harvest with yellow fruit, Pink Spires, and Prairie Fire also have red fruit.
Ask the Arboretum Experts has been brought to you by the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum in Chanhassen, dedicated to enriching lives through the appreciation and knowledge of plants.
Larry, this is a bed that's one of my favorites. I really enjoy hostas. I have many varieties of hostas in here. And the reason I like hostas is because they're so carefree. There's very little maintenance to them. I deadhead them, and in every fall I cut mine back down to the ground so I don't have to worry about it in the spring. And there's beautiful varieties with the white and the green leaves and different colors of green. So this is one of my favorite beds. It also has a piece that I got from my grandfather's yard.
Was that a church or a school?
I believe it's a school.
Modeled maybe after one he went to?
Could be, although he didn't have much education.
Okay, okay. Well, tell me a little bit about why are your hostas so big?
Because I like to let them get big. I don't split my hostas unless I absolutely have to, and I've never found that I absolutely have to. Sometimes I'll split one if a friend wants a piece. Other than that, I just let them grow.
Do you have to do a lot of fertilizing?
No, I really don't fertilize this area much at all. They get a lot of water, and I understand they like a lot of water, especially early in the year.
And mulch, lots of mulch here. You must have bought out the whole town.
I did. I spread like 20 yards of mulch this summer.
And how long does this last?
I replace my mulch about every 3 years.
And why do you select the red?
Because I like the contrast with the color green and all the different flowers.
Uh-huh. Well, do you have a unique hosta that you really enjoy?
Well, my favorite hosta is the Patriot. It's a very big plant, and it's very firm leaves, and it's just one of my favorite.
Do you ever have slug problems?
I do occasionally find slugs in my yard, and I use slug bait.
And well, they're looking good. I see just a couple little holes.
There's just a few holes, but I have not found slugs, so I think there's something else eating at them this year. I noticed some grasshoppers around and some box elder bugs around.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you've let the flowers stay on the plant. Do you come back as soon as that bloom kind of dies back and deadhead it out of here?
I do cut them off. There's several that I have already cut off because they were done a week or two ago.
Well, it's one more chore in the evening.
Yes, it is. That's okay. I like being out in the garden.
Uh-huh. Well, one of the things I notice about this garden is it's your favorite, but where's the chair?
I don't have a place to sit out here. Sometimes I'll just come out and sit on the ground just to enjoy it.
Get a different view every time that way.
I do, and plus when I'm out with my daycare children, I can look over and always see the beautiful hostas.
Uh-huh. And I noticed you had a couple named varieties over in another bed.
Yes, I have some small hostas, which I've just, in the last couple of years, found. I have one that's called Island Charm, and I have another one that is called Rainbow's End. and Hosta Pure Heart. They're very small, and I call them cute. People laugh at me, but I call them cute.
Are they classified as the miniatures?
Yes.
Probably only get 3-4
Yep,
inches?
yep.
Yeah, I think there's a trend towards some of those.
I think it is. When I went and bought one of them, the cashier said, "Oh, I think I want this plant. You got to go find another one."
Aha. Yeah. And I see over on the pine trees, it looks like you've created a new bed.
Right. I planted that because our grass wouldn't grow well there because of the pine needles and the acid. And I thought I'd try my luck with shrubs, and they seem to be doing very well. I have a couple of azaleas in there, and they bloom beautifully this spring. And the other plants seem to be tolerating the acid soil very well.
Do you amend it with additional acid?
No, I don't.
So there's enough pine needles there
Yes.
that's apparently keeping them going. And what about this little garden here? What's the history behind that
This
one?
is a bed that I got the tree after my dad passed away. He had flowering crab trees in his yard as I was growing up, and I always wanted one, and after he passed away, I got a gift certificate, so I went and bought one and thought, that has to be a bed in honor of my dad. The white bench came from his house.
Aha, and it looks like it's granite.
Yep. Yeah, we're born in the Granite City, so
Yep, got to have a piece
gotta
on the-
have granite.
Yep, and you got a little hydrangea blooming there.
Yes,
And that one looks like it's going to have some color.
it will, yes.
Did
It's looking really good. I did not amend the soil for that one.
Really? Huh. You know what the name of that particular one?
I don't recall.
Okay, okay. Well, this is a very beautiful yard, and we've got some more hostas out in front. Doing well?
Yes, everything is doing well. I'm struggling with some watering issues, but other than that, my plants are doing very well.
Okay, looks like you got to do a little edging over there. though.
Yes, I do. I do.
Do you ever think of buying an edging machine?
Sometimes,
Yeah. That's a lot of shovels of dirt.
but I don't mind the hard work.
Well, Bonnie, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for showing us your beautiful garden. I bet your neighbors really love this.
Yes, I get a lot of favorable comments as people are walking by.
Good, and I want to add my positive comments.
Thank you very much.
Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yekel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org.